I've spent the past few months navigating my mom's healthcare crisis from Seattle while my sister handles things on the ground with my dad back in New York. And somewhere in the middle of all of the crazy, I started having conversations with women and some men about how our mothers shaped us, how we show up, what we carry, and what we're trying to unlearn. What she taught me is a series of honest conversations about that influence, good, bad, somewhere in between. Because whether your mother was your greatest advocate, your biggest challenge, or somewhere in the middle, she left a mark. And that mark is still showing up on you today. I'm Jill Consor Beck, founder of Go Long. Let's talk about it. I'm here with Kim Oser, founder of Game Plan Organizing. She's been on the show before. I hope to have her on again. And I'm so happy to have you back. So, Kim, welcome back.
Thank you, Jill. Happy to be here.
All right. Tell us how you got here.
Okay, sure. So I'm going to preface it with I'm very lucky. I'm turning 56 later this week, and my parents are both alive and healthy, which I know is a rarity. I live 10 minutes from my parents, so they are very much a part of my life. I've never really lived far from them. I lived in Ohio for 2 years, but other than that, my mom has been nearby for a majority of my life. And I will say that I did go to Ohio for 2 years because I felt like I needed to cut the cord. And if I had stayed local, I would be tethered and I felt like I needed independence.
So, you are a solopreneur. And
Yes.
so you manage all the things related to your business and related to everything. So when you think about how your mother influenced who you are today, what's the first thing that comes to mind?
My business is helping people stay organized and minimizing stress through organization and productivity. My mother influenced my where I am because my mother was a perfectionist, still is a perfectionist. I don't know where she got that from because her parents were not perfectionists, uh, but it was always having this standard of perfection. And my business is actually built on life does not need to be perfect. So the way I approach my organizing work is your house is a lived in home, it's not a museum. So I know that many people cannot survive if things are put behind closed doors, if everything's perfect all the time. They just become blind to it. And so I know that by me trying to come in and saying, okay, we're going to make it look like it should be an architectural digest, I'm doing a disservice to my clients. So I've actually used that standard that I grew up with from my mother of perfectionism and flipped it and said, it's okay to not be perfect. You're still good enough. You're still good. You still function. So,
I love that because I joke about the fact that I am an on-time person because my mother was always late, right? I flip
oh,
that
uh-huh.
a little bit differently. And so I think that there's so many lessons to be taken because I'm sure that perfectionism from your mom did help you in other ways in terms of, because you have a very high standard for how you do things.
Right. Correct.
So, what do you think she modeled for you unintentionally or intentionally?
Well, my mom always had order in her home. And so, I find that when I lose order in my life and, whether it's what am I doing that day? What am I doing this weekend? Travel, I always have very regimented because I find that when I don't have order, I'm stressed out and then I'm late and then I'm, you know, like feeling frenetic and, and that's just not a good feeling, that feeling of stress.
Hmm.
And so by having order, I feel a sense of control because there's so many things that we can't control in our world. And so if you have order, then you have that sense of control.
How do you think your mother handled when things were disordered?
uh, it's kind of one of those things that you don't want to be around when my mom doesn't have control. Like it's very hard for my mom to roll with the punches. And so she gets really annoyed and frustrated. And every once in a while I see that come out in myself. Like Like, when I was, like, knee deep in perimenopause, I would find that if things they were not going exactly as I wanted them to, I would lose my shit. And, like, my friends would be like, "Are you gonna have a hissy fit?" And I realized that that was modeling a learned behavior from home.
Are
Yeah.
there more behaviors that you think that you've picked up from your mom, like something that you've said that you never thought you would say, and then all of a sudden those words came out of your mouth?
Um, Not so much. I actually, from the perspective of the relationship with my mom, uh, I've worked on it and, like, worked on it from a perspective of trying to coach her, kind of flipping the roles and being like, "You gotta just let it roll. You can't let every little thing upset you, and, you're at a stage in your life where you don't need to be worried about all these things, and let other people help." So I think, that independence, which is a strong quality for women, uh, you know, can also be a little bit detrimental because it's okay to ask for help.
Well, how good are you at asking for help?
Oh, I suck.
I mean, I knew the answer to that.
Yeah, I was like, "You know that. I suck at asking for help." Yeah. I'm
What do you
trying to
but
be better.
yeah, I mean, I think there have been some recent situations where you have asked for help.
Yeah.
And
And
how
I've
is
been better at delegating, which is good.
okay. So we'll talk about
Yeah.
delegating, but when you have asked for help, what has that given you?
Um, well, number 1, it just makes things easier. And you also get a different perspective. I mean, it's when you're headstrong, another word for independence. When you're headstrong and stubborn, I will say I am a Taurus, so I kind of like blame it a little bit on the astrological signs. But anyway, without being woo woo, when I find that I'm being really stubborn, I'm like, sorry, I'm a Taurus. But
So you're
but
selectively woo woo? Is that what you're
yeah,
saying?
exactly. So, but I do find that when I allow myself to ask for help and to trust that other people can actually do it and they do not need me to micromanage things, that it's a lot easier. I think it's a learned behavior to be able to accept help. And so I find that the more I do it, the more I get a little bit more comfortable with it.
And that's both personally and professionally.
100%.
Yeah.
And I find that trying to teach my mom that has allowed me to accept help as well.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a bonus.
Yeah, because now I'm taking on some of my parents' responsibilities, so now I need help with my own.
Now, are you the sole person handling stuff for your folks, or do you have other siblings that help? What's the situation there?
I have a brother, he lives in California. We're outside Washington, DC, so literally we're like a whole country apart. Um, he They don't expect anything of him. Um, so I am the person to do everything. Like, I've taken over overseeing finances, I've taken over all their travel, which again, grateful that they are able to still travel. I mean, they're turning 84 this year. Um, I'm very lucky. Does it cause me anxiety when they travel? Of course it does, because I'm worried, are they going to figure out Uber, and are they going to figure out this, and you have to use an app and tap to pay for the subway, and so
The fact that they're taking the subway at 84, I think, is a win. If that's even
they,
in the conversation, I have to think that's a win.
they take the metro here in DC. But like I told them, I was like, you can take a taxi. I was like, I don't know how you catch a taxi anymore at the airport. I'm sure there's a line for it somewhere. But I'm trying to teach them how to use the little device in their hand to simplify their things when I'm not there to do it for them.
Right. When, going back to the expectations of you, did you always grow up being fix it girl, even growing up before your brother moved out to California?
Um, no, I mean, I have always been curious, so, like, I'm always trying things and, like, fixing things and whatever, and, um, I like learning. So, I mean, like, as a child, I would hang out with my like, Saturdays after soccer games, was going to the hardware store, like, going to Heckinger's. I'm not sure if you had that. But anyway, so, like, that was, like, as that kind of stuff, but they've always been independent, so I've been really lucky. So this is like a big shift
Was your
for them.
mom like,
Go ahead. Go ahead.
was your mom the person who always took care of her parents?
Yes and no towards the end. My mom had a sister. And so the sister, my aunt controlled, and when my grandfather passed away, my aunt controlled my grandmother's finances. So she had kind of like that responsibility. My mom kind of controlled my grandmother's social life because my grandmother didn't drive. And so my mom would take her places to meet up with friends and all that kind of stuff. But again, like fiercely independent. And my grandmother lived independently um pretty much until right before she passed away. Like she had an aide and she passed away at 99, and she was still in independent living at that time. She was in a senior living building, but she had a caregiver that would come and help out, but she was still independent. So there's a line of strong independent women in my family.
So we're gonna be we're gonna be stuck with you for a long time, sounds like.
That's right.
All
I
right. I love that. When do you think that transition happened between you being the person who's on point for your parents? Because I think that this is something that disproportionately falls on women, and regardless of whether or not they're local.
Yeah. I'm trying to think, like, the shift probably happened maybe during COVID because, nobody knew what was going on, and so I would run to the grocery store, and I would pick up for them, and then I would drop it in their laundry room, and I was in their COVID bubble, and so I would go and I would have dinner with them, and so I was around more, and so I just started showing them how to do something on their phone or going downstairs to the computer and, looking stuff up financially for them, and that's kinda where I saw where things had been, like, falling through the cracks because I had been around them so much. So I would say that that was pretty much where the pivot was that, and now I feel more comfortable, and I think they trust that things are more comfortable because I am keeping an eye on things.
Do you feel your brother could help out? And I'm not trying to get you to cast shade at your brother, but I'm just saying, like, in terms of, I know with my sister and I, we try and divide and conquer because it just makes things easier and we can accomplish more.
Yeah. Um, if I needed to, and I'm not trying to throw my brother under the bus.
Yeah, and we're not
Um,
trying to throw family members under the bus here. This is
no,
not
no,
that
no,
show.
but he's never been put in that place of responsibility with my
Mhm.
parents, and so he's never really had the opportunity to reject it, but I think he's okay with that. Like, he's good with the fact that he doesn't have the responsibility. I mean, I
I think that's
throw
very
things.
common.
Yeah, well, I throw things at him. Like, I will s I mean, we for a while, we were talking almost weekly, um, but I throw things at him, and tell him exactly what's going on. I was like, because he's like, "They need to move out." And I was like, "Well, here's where your mother wants to go." And then he's like, "Well, that's stupid." And I was like, "Well, that's why I'm not pushing them to move out," And and he was like, "Oh, okay," because he's like, "Sell the house. Who cares about the taxes on the house?" And I was like, "Not if they're moving to an apartment that's not gonna have anything in the lobby for them to do, that they're then gonna be in a smaller space on top of each other." But, I mean, so, you know, but I make sure that when he does come into town that he gets to see the picture. I mean, there are times that we'll be out and I'll be snarky. I'll be like, "This is my life." And he's like, "Okay."
Do you wish that he participated more?
Well, there goes that independent thing again. I don't know exactly what that would look like. Um, we're very different. And so, I don't know what that would look like.
Okay.
I wish he would come in more because then I wouldn't have to hear about the fact that your brother never comes to see us. Like, not my problem. Tell him that, not me. Yeah.
We'll play this video and we'll somehow see if we can figure out a way it ends up in his social media that he
Yeah.
needs to go home and visit his parents more.
Yeah, he is coming in this weekend. So
Oh,
I do get so he's getting lucky.
we
Um,
should have done this. We should have done this interview next week. Uh,
yeah. Yeah, I'll let you know how things go.
Yeah,
I'll follow up
we
with
can
you.
have a part 2. Let me ask you though, what did you watch your mother carry that, like, nobody really acknowledged?
Well, my mom and I always had friction. Like what I kind of found is that, and this may be true or not true, but she's never addressed it. I kind of felt like my mother was sort of in competition with me. Again, because I was strong. I mean, like I was an entrepreneur when I was mowing lawns when I was in middle school. I was doing beaded jewelry. I bought my first car with my own money at 16. And so I think that the fact that I was strong was a challenge to her. Um, and so rather than looking at me, and the other thing is that I didn't see her bragging about me until much later in life. And when I say that, like, and not that I need my mother to brag on me, but like for people to say to me, your mother is so proud of you. Like she does not shut up. Like your mother told me this, blah, blah. I ran into your mother and she's so excited. Like I never felt that sense until later in life.
Yeah, I have something similar. I can relate
Yeah.
to that quite well.
Yeah.
Um, how do you think you show up in your relationships as a result of your mom's influence?
You got an hour. Um, yeah. So, uh, I fear being in like some relationships. I'm great with friends. I'm great with friends and this kind of stuff, but I find that in terms of like romantic relationships, I have this in the back of my head, not good enough because nothing was ever good enough for my mother. And so, it's just kind of like an apprehension. I'm like as I start to date someone, I'm like, what's she gonna find that she doesn't like? And so it kind of like sabotages my own mindset, which is ridiculous and crazy. But again, I'm being better about that as well. But it's part of my mom being in my head. And I have a friend who was in a very similar boat. And she had her first real strong, meaningful relationship after her mom passed away. Yeah. It was like almost immediate. And she kind of like felt relief of that burden of her mother telling her she wasn't good enough, which is,
Wow.
yeah, strong, scary. Yeah. Yeah. So I'm not trying to wait for that. Um, you know, I did throw it out in the universe the other day when I said I got tickets to the Olympics. I was like I could be bringing a boyfriend, I could be bringing my husband. 2 years is a long time away, so who
It's a
knows?
long time. A lot can happen.
That's exactly what I said. So I threw it out there in the universe. See, there's the woo woo.
There's the woo woo. Oh my gosh. All right, we're gonna end with the woo woo. Kim, thank you for being on What She Taught Me. We'll have your contact information for how people can get in touch with you. As I said at the top of the show, What She Taught Me is a series of honest conversations about the influence of our mothers, whether they were there or not there, and how their influence influences how we show up for ourselves and the people around us today. I'm Jill Consor Beck, founder of Go Long. Remember, it's your life. Go the distance. Go long.